And a good Tuesday evening, everybody. Chris McDonald with you on another McFiles Tuesday. We're grateful to have you tonight. The left is becoming more and more unhinged, so is the right. Government reopens tomorrow. Happy Veterans Day to everybody. We're grateful to see you tonight. We had originally planned to have Brad Johnson with us tonight, and he's not contacting me. He may be sick. We're going to have James Akers this week. He's sick. Magdalene's sick. We had several. Eric Karen has gone down under the weather. So all of our guests have not been able to answer the call this week. So you got me tonight. I don't know if that's good or bad or in between, but we're up for it. 1776, the McFiles. Next year we'll be 250 years old. Not me. The rumors that is my age is fake news, even though I probably look like it sometimes, but I'm 250 years old. I'm talking about the country. Country will turn 250 years old next July, July the 4th, 1776 to July the 4th, 2026. Hard to believe that, isn't it? And the country is going through a lot of change right now and a lot of turmoil. We've got several videos we're going to play tonight. We're going to take your questions, and we're going to ask you just to hang on to them till the end. And we're grateful that everybody's here tonight on this Tuesday night. It has been a cold couple of days here in the hills, and we are grateful to see all our folks in tonight. We had snow yesterday here. First time it snowed this early, I think they said in almost 30 years. And the lows last night, we've not had a low like that since the late 90s. I've been up here since 99. And we get cold weather. It gets cold. We've had some sub-freezing, sub-zero days here in these 20-some-odd years I've been here. But not this early. Usually it's December, January, February. So I don't know if this means that we're going to have a rough winter. It could be that we're going to have a warmer than usual winter. We'll have to see. It's going to be an interesting thing. But it was pretty intriguing that we had such cold weather yesterday. And hopefully things will warm up tomorrow. But we're just grateful you're here tonight. I've got to play you some video. I want to show you a couple of things. There's a couple of stories that we're going to go over to our news wire. And I want you to look at with me tonight. The Gateway Pundit is reporting something that is very disturbing. It's this story right here on the left. And this is the judge up in Chicago tonight that... hang on just a second. Let me get that off. I don't know what we... Anyway, this Biden-appointed judge is poised to order a mass release of any illegal aliens that have been detained in ICE's Operation Blitz. Thousands could be dumped back on the Chicago streets in just a matter of days. This is judicial activism at its worst. And the federal judge in Illinois is reportedly preparing to order a mass release of thousands of illegal aliens detained during ICE's Operation Blitz, a nationwide crackdown on criminal and repeat immigration violators. This is according to ABC 7 in Chicago. Jeffrey Cummings, a Biden appointee, go figure, is weighing whether to grant what's called equitable relief that could see federal immigration authorities forced to release thousands of detainees into so-called alternatives to detention programs, ankle monitors, smartphone check-ins, and other effective tracking methods. Criticizes loopholes by law enforcement officers. The case stems from 2022, a settlement case that a consent decree that limits ICE agents' ability to make warrantless arrests in Illinois and several neighborhood states. Now, I don't want to read the whole thing. I'm going to go ahead and play this little video here. This is from the Wall Street Apes. Twitter handle. Interesting stuff here. Roll the tape.
A federal judge is weighing whether he can grant relief to hundreds of immigrants who attorneys argue were unlawfully detained by ICE and Border Patrol, this during Operation Midway Blitz. Our investigative reporter Mark Rivera joins us now. He's got all the details on this. Mark?
Ravi, U.S. District Judge Jeffrey Cummings is considering the release of hundreds of immigrants from federal custody. Attorneys arguing there have been thousands of people arrested in violation of a federal consent decree in the Chicago area. One of those arrests, attorneys argue, was just last week at a daycare on the north side.
And they're going to show you all this, but I just wanted to give you the news. It's basically the news headlines there. Folks, what this means, and I'll bring my screen up, and this is the path that we're on right now. We are on this path to lawlessness. We're on this path to complete destruction as a country. I'm telling you, this is the things that are going to be the death of America. They're already happening in Europe. It's England is gone. France is gone. The European Union is gone. If we don't rein in these judges, and this is not the only activism that's happened this week. We had a Utah judge just yesterday or today. The Republicans in Utah, of all places, those good old Mormons, basically drew up a map, a redistricting map, and the legislature passed it, just like the California legislator, Pat Prop 50, and she went in and said, well, what you drew up was political activism, and actually almost drew the map herself from the bench. So now Utah, that Trump won by 30 points back in 2024, may very well have a Democrat district now that is favorable to Democrats, and it's right north of the Salt Lake City area where a lot of liberals are, and in that area. That's judicial activism. And the map that the Republicans drew up was not inequitable. The legislature passed it. That's why elections matter. California's doing it, trying to get the Dems an advantage, getting 5 more seats. Illinois has gerrymandered Illinois so bad that you can't even see a red speck from a million miles away. New Jersey has done this brutally. Massachusetts, other blue states are doing it. They always do this. But when the Republicans do it, all of a sudden it becomes activism, and these courts are stepping in. I don't know where this is going to end. If this happens, though, in Chicago, folks, if this happens in Chicago, we basically have got no law. I mean, we basically what's happening is that if the police even arrest somebody for murder, if they arrest somebody for rape, if they arrest somebody that's illegal here for a DUI, or they got a warrant for basically abusing kids, sexually raping kids, trafficking kids, anything like that. Well, what this judge is saying is that ICE does not have the right to detain them, and it's going to be a disaster. And I'm going to tell you this: we've not done a McJustice show in a long time, but one of the things that when I download these crime videos that I'm seeing is a lot of repeat offenders and a lot of these criminals that are going out almost the same day, getting released from jail early by a rogue judge and a rogue system of justice, and going out and doing almost the exact same crime that they were put in jail for. I cannot tell you the number of murders that we've had in this nation over the last probably 3 months by people that were in jail just a day or two and got released on a technicality and went out and killed somebody else the day that they were released, almost, if not days, most weeks. So we're on a bad road, folks. This is a path to complete anarchy in this nation. I'll get your thoughts on this later, but this is America. This is America. It's not good. This judge needs to be impeached, but because we have a feckless Congress and we have a feckless Republican Party, and this is why elections matter, and Joe Biden was allowed to put this loser on the bench, this is what we get. And I pray that President Trump steps in some manner and tries to take this to the Supreme Court. Supreme Court, it's going to come down, a lot of this, to the Supreme Court. And that's the last hope we've got, and that's not saying a lot, because you just don't know how these justices, even the Republican appointed ones, are going to rule sometime. I mean, I've seen Amy Coney Barrett make some great decisions, and I've seen her make some stinker decisions. I've seen Gorsuch and Kavanaugh, the most solid justice, the two solid justices on that bench right now is Sam Alito and Clarence Thomas. And God help us if they ever step aside in this lifetime. But anyway, and it's part of the Dem plan to take over this nation and bring lawlessness into a nation that we're not lawless, neighbor. We're a nation of laws. We're a nation of laws. I want you to listen to something tonight along this line. This is Jim Carville today talking to somebody on one of his podcasts, and this is what the Dems actually plan to do if they get elected. This is the vision of the Democrat Party. We're going to talk about them more in a minute here, but I want you to listen carefully to what they plan to do if they get back in power. And what I just read to you is going to be mild compared to what they're going to do to our justice system. Roll the tape.
I want to talk to Chief Justice Roberts, Justice Alito, Justice Barrett, Justice Kavanaugh, Justice Gorsuch. I might be forgetting one. I'm going to tell you what's going to happen. A Democrat is going to be elected in 2028. You know that. I know that. It's going to be a Democratic House. It's going to be a Democratic Senate. The Democratic president is going to announce a special transition advisory committee on the reform of the Supreme Court, that we could have our third branch of government has lost the faith and trust of the American people, and his president are going to do everything alone. He's going to appoint a blue ribbon, maybe Judge Ludick and the dean of the, just the usual fucking suspects, all right? And they're going to recommend that the number of Supreme Court justices go from 9 to 13. That's going to happen, people. That's going to happen to you. They're going to win. They're going to do some blue ribbon panel of distinguished jurists, and they are going to recommend 13, and a Democratic Senate and House are going to pass it, and the Democratic president is going to sign it, because they have to do an intervention so we can have a Supreme Court that the American people trust again. So
excuse me for choking on my spit, listening to that crap. James Carville, a Supreme Court the Americans trust? Are you serious? Are you listening to yourself? Are you really listening to yourself? This is where they want, folks. This is what they want. And the arrogance and the cockiness of this party. Look, the party tonight is in shambles, but it's not dead. Our dear friend Cleo, down under, she has talked to me over the last several weeks about the cycle of their left wing. At one time looked like it was dead in the water. Right before Morrison, the previous prime minister, was elected, there had been such a surge, and it looked like Scott Morrison was going to be the next great hope of conservatism in Australia. And it looked like the left would never get back in power ever again. And then COVID hit. And Morrison, instead of acting like a Republican or acting like a conservative, it would be the same similar situation as our Republican Party here. He started acting like a Democrat. And he locked Australia down. And the people got disenfranchised. They got upset. And now the left, it has swung back, controlled by the left. Albanese's government is as liberal as they come. But the lesson that the Australians learned, and that I don't think we've learned, while we've got this party in disarray, while this party's in disarray, the Republicans had better do everything they can to get as get many things encompassing law as they can. And because the Dems may be down, but they're not out. And what's happening tonight is this, and let me bring my screen up. We got more video I'm going to show you here in a minute, but let me tell you what's happening. The older guard, Schumer, Pelosi, Dick Durbin, there's other older Dems, Christopher Coon even, up in the Northeast. These older named dinosaurs, they are on their way out. Bernie Sanders, even though Bernie is as crazy as a loot, he's old. And the only reason Bernie is appealing to anybody in the Dem Party is a socialist. I don't even think you could call this party Dem. I don't think you can even call it a Dem Party now anymore. It's become the American Socialist Party. And the appeal now is to these younger Dems. And the party's wanting to go younger. It's wanting to go more left. It's wanting to go more communist. It's wanting to go more socialist. Don't think for a second. I hear the people on Fox talk about AOC, and I heard even Dana Lesh tonight, who I respect a great deal. I think Dana's a great voice for this nation, and she was on Fox a lot more in years past, and now she's just a guest. But I'll just leave it at that. But she's got her own show now on First Nation Network, and she made the statement the other day, that she don't think that AOC is going to appeal to people outside of her district, and I disagree. Look, folks, if what happened in New York City a week ago tonight don't shake us up, and this appeal that we think, well, these kids are not going to register. That's one reason I want to get Magdalene on tonight, but she's got strep throat, and God bless her heart. Please pray for her. But we'll get her on next week. But I want to tell you this, the appeal of these younger Democrats is going to be deeper than we may think. And we may just laugh it off and call them names and, well, they're kooky and they're crazy and they're insane. I see it in the chat all the time. People just, we make disparaging comments about people in that manner, and we just laugh it off, and we say, well, there's no way that they'll ever get elected. Well, I'm going to tell you something, folks. I wonder how many people laughed Mandami off when he started talking all this crazy stuff about socialism. We just laughed it off. We said, well, there's no way the New Yorkers would ever embrace that. And guess what they did? And I'm going to be frank with you. It's by the grace of God the kid is from Uganda, because I believe that the target is not New York City. The target is 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. The target is the Supreme Court. The target is Congress. They're already in Congress. And this younger AOC, Rhea Paul, Rashid Tlaib, Ilhan Omar, Seth Moulton, Smallwell, as evil and wicked as he is, he's he's in his 30s, 40s maybe. The Democrat Party is going to go younger. They may be down tonight, and they may be in a disarray, but they're not gone. They're not gone. And we better learn some lessons, and we better learn the fact that if the Republicans don't get their act together, this is what's going to happen to America, what happened to Australia. Because Australia is basically going to become a concentration camp and a penal colony here in a few months. They're going to shut the internet down, and people ain't even going to be able to get out without an ID. And it's part of more of a worldwide control by government of the people. And the Dems want this. Some of you may remember Boogie Bumper. He was one of our frequent guests way back when we first started doing this back in 2018, 2019. And he stopped sort of podcasting, and he was a good friend. He always was funny. He's Australian. He's from Australia. And I never will forget the night that AOC was running for Congress, and Boogie Bumper came on this show. He predicted what's happened. Predicted it 7 years ago. He told me, he said, there's this girl up in New York City, New York, watch her. He said, I watched her the other night on Instagram, and she had her video, had a little phone out. She was baking chocolate chip cookies. She was talking to the young people. And he said, Chris, he said she was connecting with those kids. She was connecting. He could tell. He could watch the comments. And they were going crazy over her. Yes, she's got a small district in New York. Yeah, it's isolated in New York. But folks, don't ever underestimate. Don't ever underestimate, and I hate to use this word tonight, don't underestimate the stupidity of the American voter. And don't underestimate the influence that these young Democrat socialists are having on your young people and my young people and people that this younger generation, they are resonating with that message. Even Grandpa Bernie is resonating with the young people. If Bernie was a old established Chuck Schumer, Nancy Pelosi type and bringing that message, Bernie would have been gone a long time ago. The reason Bernie has survived as long as he has, he's pushing socialism. And the kids love socialism. And they love that stuff. It's free. And then they don't know history, of course, and they're not taught history. That is these same socialist regimes and these same, by the way, the Nazi Party of Germany was not Muslim. It was a socialist regime that slaughtered 6 million Jews and put the world in an unspeakable place of 55 million dead in the wake of World War II, trying to spread socialism across Europe. And thank God for people like Winston Churchill that saw the evil and he stood up to it before it reached England. You know, it's sad to me that even to this day, the history books and most people in England hate Winston Churchill's guts. Most people hate Margaret Thatcher's guts. And those two leaders right there, more so than any other leaders in the last half century, helped Britain stave off this communist socialist push. Thatcher, when she left office, I mean, she was reviled. And our government, when she died, did not even send a representative over for her funeral. But her and Reagan stood hand in hand, toe to toe, looked the communist push down in the face and stopped the spread of it and broke the power of communism with the help of the Lord. It wasn't them, but it was God's timing. But God used those two individuals to keep communism, and the Berlin Wall came crumbling down because of their strength. But after that Berlin Wall came down, Thatcher became the most hated woman in Britain's history. And if you read stuff about her to this day, it is nothing but negativity. And it's nothing, just the same way they do Reagan, the same way they do Churchill to this day. Almost 100 years after Winston Churchill basically saved Britain from Hitler's domination because he saw it early, and when he became prime minister, he stood up to it until America got its act together and got in this war. We should have gotten into this war when by the way, yesterday, we should have mentioned it last night. Last night was the anniversary of the night of Kristallnacht, which is the day of broken glass. What is that? That's the night in 1938, November the 10th, November the 9th or 10th, in that time, that the German government started, basically, a lot of historians believe it was the first start of the Holocaust. They went around and they destroyed every Jewish business they could, and they busted out so much glass. And so much glass was on the streets of Germany that night that historians look back on it and they started calling it the night of broken glass, because every single Jewish business was destroyed. And people were throwing rocks, burning them down, busting glass, throwing stuff into the streets, looting, burning, destroying property. And it became sort of the warning shot across the bow of what was coming to not just German Jews, but to the Jews of all the entirety of Europe. It was shortly after that event that the St. Louis started taking sail for this country. And you've heard the story of the St. Louis. Maybe you have, maybe you haven't. Maybe it'd be something good to Google. 1939. About 930, roughly 1,000 Jewish people got on a boat. They saw this evil rising in Europe. They saw it. And they said, we got to get out. We got to get out. These socialists and what Hitler's saying he's going to do, We see it. We believe that he's going to actually do it, and they tried to flee. And you can thank the good old Franklin Delano Roosevelt and Eleanor, the wonderful Democrat Party, the head of the Democrat, the de facto figurehead of everybody who extols FDR for his courage. He had no courage whatsoever. He kept us out of the war. He should have brought us, the day that the Germans attacked Poland, America should have stood with Britain at that moment. And thank God for Winston Churchill, because who knows where any of us would be tonight had it not been for him. But history, my point is not to rehash history and give you a history lesson tonight. But my point is this. If you talk to any young person today, or you talk to anybody that is in this atmosphere that we've got in this country, you talk to anybody in Europe, and you talk to most people, and you talk to a young person about those kind of things, they have nothing but disgust, and they have nothing but disrespect for leaders like Winston Churchill and Margaret Thatcher. And even us older folks, some of these older adults, they think that they were the devil. But they stood up to evil. And let me tell you this. I see the same thing happening right now. Those that are standing up to the evil are being called evil. And those that are allowing evil to run rampant are being called good. That is apostasy, neighbor. That is apostasy, and that is where our nation's going to tonight. It's already there, to be frank with you. But they're using these rogue judges, and don't think that Carville's plan is that far-fetched. I know a lot of you listened to that, and you rolled your eyes like I did, and you say, well, that's impossible. That'll never happen. I'm trying to give you some sound advice tonight. And I'm talking to believers, because we've got a very strong faith audience in this show. This is something that we need to pray about and pray against strongly. Because this is their vision. And they're not hiding it. No more than Hitler hid it. No more than the Socialist Party of America, the Democrat Socialist hid. Mandami, at least he was honest what he's going to do. And he's going to do it, folks. He's going to try to do it. He may not be able to accomplish it, but he's going to try to bring those principles to New York City. Now, whether he succeeds or not, ultimately don't matter. What he's done, though, he's galvanized an army of young socialists that are coming to a city and a county and a state house, and I'm afraid the Congress of the United States and maybe the Supreme Court of the United States, and they're trying to come to the White House near you. Now, that's my opinion. You don't have to believe that. You can blow this off and say, well, these are just a bunch of kook kids. Okay, whatever. Well, we thought Mandami was a kook, and he's going to be the next mayor come January the 1st in New York City. And something to think about. Here's Ted Cruz, my dear buddy, good friend, good guy. Don't agree with him on everything, but talking to Mark Levin about the rise in anti-Semitism, not on the left, but on the right. Roll the tape.
In the last 6 months, I have seen more anti-Semitism on the right than at any time in my lifetime. It is rising on the right, and it is dangerous. And if we look away, if we refuse to denounce it, if we are scared of it, it could destroy the Republican Party just like it has destroyed the Democrat Party. I think we have an obligation to stand up, to speak out. Many elected Republicans are terrified to say anything. And I think this is a moment where everyone decides, where do you stand? Are you willing to stand up and speak the truth? And it is going to matter in the coming years whether our party and even more fundamentally our country survives.
Let me play that again. Listen to this.
In the last 6 months, I have seen more anti-Semitism on the right than at any time in my lifetime. It is rising on the right, and it is dangerous. And if we look away, if we refuse to denounce it, if we are scared of it, it could destroy the Republican Party just like it has destroyed the Democrat Party. I think we have an obligation to stand up, to speak out. Many elected Republicans are terrified to say anything. And I think this is a moment where everyone decides, where do you stand? Are you willing to stand up and speak the truth? And it is going to matter in the coming years whether our party and even more fundamentally our country survives.
Totally agree. Totally agree with Ted. Totally agree with Mark. This is Rudy Giuliani's take on it. Former mayor of New York City. He was there on 9/11. He sees it, and he gets it.
There's been an awful lot of talk, probably because of Mondani, and also because of the universities. And we are going through probably our worst international outbreak of anti-Semitism, anti-Jewish violence since Hitler. I don't think there's any doubt about that. And yes, it stretches across this entire country from mostly in universities, which is really the oddest thing in the world. You'd think the last place you would have the ancient evil of anti-Semitism arise, which is thousands of years old, or in universities. But these aren't universities. Harvard and all these places have turned into Marxist training schools for people who have been indoctrinated in exactly what Karl Marx was preaching back in 1850. Hate God, destroy the nuclear family, get rid of morals, the central government bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, and let it keep running bigger and bigger parts of your life.
And that's Rudy Giuliani. And let me just say this to the individuals in our chat tonight. Please be respectful. We don't tolerate anti-Semitic talk here. And if you don't like the show, I mean, we love you, but we're not going to put up with it. These are not talking points. McFilesForum@gmail.com. You're welcome to send your comments and opinions there. We'll give you a chance to speak at the end, but we don't truck with that. And you say America first. Well, let me tell you this about America first. America first does not trump God first. America first does not trump God first. We're not pushing Israel first. We're not pushing that. But when you start talking about anti-Semitism, you're talking about an ideology that I just got through explaining plunged the world into World War II and 55 million people being killed, including 6 million Jews. So I'll just leave it at that. But when you've got situations like that going on, you have pastors like this going on. This is a Methodist pastor. I'll let the video speak for itself. Roll tape.
Zohran Mamdani might be one of the most Christ-like political figures in our American system right now. And hear me out. I'm Blair. I'm a pastor, a parent, and a professor of theology. And I understand that Zohran is Muslim. That's not the point here. The point here is the way that Zohran describes his own philosophy.
Let me stop it. Let me back that up. This is a Methodist pastor. Yeah, she's a woman, but she's a Methodist pastor, Methodist ordained women. But I want you to listen, line by line, word for word. Listen carefully, folks. Look at her age. She's probably preaching this behind her pulpit. I'm going to start that back again. I want you to listen to this. This is what I'm trying to tell you tonight, neighbor. They're resignating. This socialist push is resignating. But you've got the church backing it. You've got the church backing it.
Zohran Mamdani might be one of the most Christ-like political figures in our
social justice, that's what they equate Christ-likeness with. Roll the tape.
American system right now. And hear me out. I'm Blair. I'm a pastor, a parent, and a professor of theology. And I understand that Zohran is Muslim.
I understand that he's Muslim, but that's not the issue, she says.
That's not the point here. The point here is the way that Zohran describes his own philosophy of the government. In a recent interview with The Daily and the New York Times, he said, what democratic socialism means is a belief that it is government's job to ensure that every person is living a life of dignity.
All right. It is not the government's responsibility. It is not anybody's responsibility that you live a life of dignity. You know who that falls on? That falls on you. And that falls on me. No, the government is not responsible to raise your child. And the government's not responsible to pay your food bill and to pay your insurance. All this talk tonight about the government being shut down for 40 days over this health crisis that the Democrats created, the whole argument, folks, has been a sham and has been a tower of cards. When you start talking about government-run health care and government-run food and government-run buses and government-run grocery stores and government-run this and government that, it is a socialist agenda. It's what engulfed Europe. It is what Thatcher stood against. It's what Churchill stood against. It is what Reagan stood against. And it's what Trump's standing against. It's what any good leader is standing against. But how can you stand against it when you got the Christian voice? And I know she's not, I would say, be defined as a Christian, but she is professing to be one, and she's a pastor and theology teacher, for goodness sake. But her whole premise right there ends. Right there, her argument is already debunked. When she starts saying that the government's job is to give you dignity. Neighbor, if you can't give yourself dignity, and to be frank with you, you can't, you need Christ to do that. I'll just leave it at that. I'll just do a little preaching tonight while I'm at it. We need Christ to give us our dignity. Man's dignity is found at the cross. His dignity is found in the Savior. His dignity is found at the bloodstained, in the bloodstained hands of Christ, and at the bloodstained power of the blood of Jesus tonight. That's where man finds his salvation. That's where man finds his dignity. He don't find it at the government's role. But that's what the socialists say that man does. See, that's the dynamic, ultimate difference of ideology between Western capitalism, neighbor, and democratic, whatever you want to call it, socialism. It goes under a lot of names. It's fascism, and it's jihadism, and it's wanting submission of your kids tonight, and it's doing a pretty good job convincing your children and mine that this is good stuff.
And dignity is not the things that you'd like, it's not the things that you'd want, and it's the things that you need.
The things that you need. Listen carefully. This is their ideology, neighbor. This is what they believe. They're not, hey, it's not like they're hiding this from us. They're telling us exactly what they expect and what they want.
I'm going to say that one more time. The government's job is to ensure that every person is living a life of dignity.
No, it's not. No, it's not. It is not the government's job. And while I'm at it, Mom and Dad, it's not the school system to raise your little devil and make an angel out of your devil. No, your little Johnny and Susie that you ship off to school, and you think that the school needs to wave a magic wand and stop them from being a little smug, self-righteous, entitled little brat. That's not the school system's job to do that. That's your job to do, Mom and Dad. It's not the school system's job to form and mold your child into the child they need to be. No, the school system's part of the problem. That's your job, Mom and Dad. It's not the government's job to do any of that. It's your job. It's your job.
When I read the scriptures and look at
I'm afraid to hear the rest of this. Roll the tape.
what Jesus does for people in his ministry, it is ensure them a life of dignity.
Let me stop her right there. Jesus did not come to save man from his dignity. He came to save man from his sin. Man's self-image of himself is part of the problem, neighbor. The very fact that man cannot see that he's a sinner plays into this kind of thinking. God didn't send his son on this earth to die so man can have dignity. He came that man might be saved from hell, and that man might be redeemed from sin and set free from sin. God sent Jesus Christ and in the expression of his love and his grace to this human race that without Christ certainly doesn't have any dignity. And he came that man might be free of sin, because sin is what brings man to the level that he doesn't have dignity. It ain't his education. It ain't his schooling. It ain't his money. It ain't his gender. It ain't his background. It ain't his ethnicity. It's not anything like that. It's man's spiritual state, that whether man has dignity or not. And you know what sin does? It makes man without dignity, because it brings man down to the level of nothing more than an animal. And that's what sin does. And the author of it is Satan. The author of it is the devil. He was the first rebel, and he has instilled that rebellion in man. But Christ came that those who come to him can be free of sin and darkness. It's not about dignity, ma'am, with all due respect.
It's to heal people who've been exiled because of their illness or their disability.
Because, did you hear that? Why is man exiled? Because of his disability? Because of his sickness? What causes the disability in man? What causes the sickness in man? I'll tell you what causes it. Sin. Sin. Man's rebellion against God. Man's unwillingness to accept Christ. Not because of his disability. Man, because of sin and because of the fall, he is disabled tonight. Because of the fall, man is sick. He's spiritually sick. He's mentally sick. He's emotionally sick. The whole world lies in darkness tonight, neighbor. Excuse me for preaching on this Tuesday night. I've been wanting to do a revival. I might as well get started early tonight. Let me just go ahead and say it loud and say it clearly tonight. Jesus Christ came to set the captive free. He came to set man free from his sickness, and his sickness has been caused by sin. Not the other way around. Not the other way around. But this is the mentality of the socialist mind and these young people.
It's to feed people when they're hungry.
Social justice. Every bit of what she's saying is social justice.
It's to see children as beloved and to belonging to the community instead of as property or possession.
Now, ain't it ironic? I don't know her view on abortion. She brings the children into this, that it's to make children part of the community. I wonder if this young lady, and I'm being very nice and kind, I'm not trying to, there's not going to be any name calling, but I want you to listen to me, neighbor. I guarantee you, if I sat down with her and said, what do you think about abortion? She'd support abortion. She'd support abortion. This is the hypocrisy of socialism. They push for you to feed children. They push for you to have children part of the community. And then on the very turn of their ideology, they are rabid abortionists that seek to kill the unborn and tell the woman, you got a right, and the government needs to pay for your right to kill a baby. You can't have it both ways, but socialism wants it both ways. And these young people do too.
It's to see women the same way. Jesus ensures a life of dignity for all those he meets.
And there is nothing more indignant than a woman with the ability to kill a baby without punishment. And a woman and a doctor and a society to murder the young and to murder the unborn with impunity. And folks, we may not see justice on this earth for these abortions, but I'm going to tell you this nation, more so than any, because of the light we've been given, and because of the opportunity and the blessing we've been given, we're going to be held to an account for these babies more so than any other nation. The blood of 83 million babies is screaming to God from the ground tonight. How dignified is that? How dignified is it that we allow perversion to run rampant in front of our kids? Is it dignity that we allow a transgender male or a transgender woman to literally do a porn show in front of a child that's 6 or 7 years old at a library and tell them that's normal? Is that dignified? Is it dignity that we allow this corruption to go on and we tell kids there's no God in schools? We tell kids this and we teach kids this socialist agenda. We tell the kids America's bad. We tell kids capitalism is bad. We teach our kids that Israel is bad. We turn them into raging anti-Semites. This fascism that you saw last night at UC Berkeley, by the way, let me tell you what dignity looks like. In the socialist world, let me give you an example of what their definition of dignity is. Their definition of dignity is what rioters did to this man last night. By the way, the man that did this to this gentleman, his name is Jihad. He's under arrest tonight. This was outside the Charlie Kirk event last night in UC Berkeley, UK Berkeley, whatever. See, they look at that image, and the socialists tell you that they've got a right to protest those that they consider fascists, and that's what they consider dignified. That's their definition of dignity. Just 28 seconds more. Listen.
And so if you want to talk about instituting a Christian government, I would pay attention to what Zoran Mamdani is doing. Because what he is describing is a Christ-like system of government where we are all assured the basic necessities for human dignity. And I think that looks like the kingdom of God.
Wow. Wow. I wonder where this chick got her theology from. I'm not judging her tonight, folks. I feel sorry for her. I mean, look, I pray for her. That's some messed up thing. I think she said it was right. But I look at her and I wonder, because for her to be a pastor and for her to be teaching theology, she had to go through schooling. Because I know the Methodist Church, you got to have a degree to pastor. She heard this and learned this somewhere. She just didn't wake up with this on her mind. She didn't wake up with this one morning and woke up a socialist. She didn't just wake up and say, I love socialism. No, this was taught. This was taught. And now she's teaching others. Now she's teaching other young people and telling the world that Zoran Mamdani's got a Christ-like government. Got a Christ-like government. I hold no contempt for this young lady. I pray for her. But folks, she's flat wrong. She's flat wrong. But when you have people, and let me just cut to the chase. We may sneer at this, and we may cringe at this, and we may get angry about it, and we may say ugly things about this young lady, which we don't need to do. We need to pray for her. It is no different, listen to me, it is no different than what's coming from other pulpits in America, from not young people, but from old people, from us adults. There's some adults that are amening that tonight. There's some adults that are saying, that's right, that's right, that's right. Because number one, they don't know the true Christ of the Bible, thanks to the lack of preaching in the pulpits. Number two, again, they call evil good and good evil. They despise authority. They slander those that are good. They rejoice in those that are evil. They look at this whole world as being inequitable, and unless the rich give all their money to the poor, then somehow or another, that's, in their mindset, that's evil. But again, they want dignity. She's preaching dignity, and this same socialist agenda will tell you in a heartbeat, without blinking, it's okay to kill a baby. And rejoice in doing it. And if you tell them that it's sin, then all of a sudden you are a fascist and you are a hateful hate monger, and you're not respecting women's rights. You're not respecting the rights of others. We have a right to do this as socialists. The government should finance it. The government should pay my food stamps. The government should pay my welfare. The government should pay my grocery bill. The government should pay my bus fare. I'm entitled to it because I want dignity. And it's the government's job to give it to me. No, it's not. No, it's not. No, it's not. You're not entitled to a thing. We are all men. If we will just but read our Declaration of Independence, and the Bible basically says the same thing, but I'll just bring it down to the Founding Fathers document. When they founded those documents, and one of the first lines in our Declaration of Independence, that we are all men created equal. Equal. We all have the equal opportunity to do with our lives what we seek to do. And if we want to throw our life away, and we don't want to go the right way, and we want to pee our life away on drugs and alcohol and things, you got a choice to do that. You can do that. But let me tell you what you don't have a right to do. You don't have a right to throw your life away on those things and then come crawl into the government because you don't want to work, and you're lazy, and you don't want to get out and get a job. You don't want to make a living. You don't want to do anything but sit around, eat bonbons, and stay in your mama's house till you're 30 and let them pay your bills, and then crawl to the government and saying, I need a check because I need some dignity. You don't have a right to do that. That's not what our Constitution grants you the right to do. It's never granted you the right to do that. It's never granted men the right to do that. We are all created equal. We have all the equal opportunity we want, and there ain't one person out there tonight that can say, well, I don't have the same opportunity as others. That is crap. That's what Satan has instilled in the minds of most people. And he's certainly instilling it in these young people, because that's what they feel. This one does. 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 And let me just say this again to you tonight, folks. I got a few more videos, and I'm going to take your question. Listen to me. We may laugh this off, and I can almost hear the collective disgust in the chat room. I can almost hear the collective disgust in the audience. I can't believe that this young lady is saying this, and we can get mad at her and upset, and we shouldn't. We shouldn't. Listen, she's only a product of the apostate system of the church that has failed to stand up and preach the true gospel for many, many decades now. And what we have had happen is that the social justice gospel has taken hold in the church, and it has taken hold in many a circle. You had black pastors, we played the video last week, you had black pastors laying their hands on Mandami. They were doing the same thing. They weren't even young pastors. They were older pastors. These were old gray-headed dudes praying for Mandami and saying, God, thank God for the miracle of Zoma and Mandami. My point to you tonight is we better take this seriously, neighbor. We better stop blowing this off as this is just a fad, and maybe the kids get over it and outgrow it. They're not outgrowing this. And look, we may laugh at Chuck, and we may say Chuck's gone and Nancy's gone, and we rejoice about that. Well, by the way, Nancy Pelosi's daughter tonight announced she's running for her mom's seat probably. All they're going to do is recycle younger Democrats, folks. They're going to recycle younger socialists. They got a bench that's very deep, and these younger socialists are going to be more rabid and more left. And for us older folks, I don't know how long I'm going to be here on this earth, and neither do you. But if the Lord tarries any length of time and He grants us time on this earth, a lot of these kids are going to be ruling over us. They are going to be running the government. They're going to be running City Hall. They're going to be running the state houses. They're going to be running Congress. They're going to be running the White House. And if Carville has his wish, they're going to put 13 Supreme Court justices on there, and likely many of them will be just like that pastor I just said to you. They will be social justice warriors. Kajani J. Brown Jr. can't even tell you what a woman is. Can't even tell you where a man or a woman is. By the way, this is Woody Harrelson tonight. Got to move on. Got to love Hollywood. Let me play Woody. I wish these actors would just shut up. I just wish they had just shut up. Shut up. I don't care what they think, but when they start talking like this, you just want to take your TV and never give a dime to anything with entertainment ever again. Roll the tape.
I used to dream about being a Secret Service agent, but then that passed when I realized the character that I liked on television was actually an actor playing a Secret Service agent. But luckily I didn't become a Secret Service agent. I'd be having to protect Donald Trump right now, and that just wouldn't sit well.
You would have a very big job right now to do.
Yeah, I'd be wanting to slip him some cyanide instead of jumping in front of a bullet. I shouldn't say these things.
Should not be saying
Okay, well, I guess, well, it's out there. It's out there.
Yeah, I don't know if you heard what he said. He said, sorry for the network sort of pause there. I'm going to play that again. Let me play that again. It was stalling on a little bit. I want you to listen to this carefully again, folks. The person that put the video out thought this was funny. This ain't funny. What Woody Harrelson said, he said, I wished I was Trump's Secret Service agent, because if I was, I'd slip him some cyanide. Roll tape.
I used to dream about being a Secret Service agent, but then that passed when I realized the character that I liked on television was actually an actor playing a Secret Service agent. But luckily, I didn't become a Secret Service agent. I'd be having to protect Donald Trump right now, and that just wouldn't sit well.
You would have a very big job right now to do.
Yeah, I'd be wanting to slip him some cyanide instead of jumping in front of a bullet.
Slip him some cyanide instead of jumping in front of a bullet. That's what you call Trump derangement syndrome. Here's Victor Davis Hanson. Victor Davis is chiming in on the Candace Owens thing. A few more videos tonight. Roll the tape.
When he had Candace on and he had Nick Fuentes on, he had David Cullum, the revisionist, he had Daryl. There became a pattern. I should say at this point, very quickly, and I'll stop, there's nothing wrong if you want to have an edgy, out of the ballpark figure if you're willing to cross-examine him. William F. Buckley had his brand in those firing line episodes was to have people like the convicted rapist Eldridge Cleaver, like the known segregationist George Wallace, with a kooky eugenicist William Shockley, to have Huey Newton. But if you look at those episodes, he cross-examined them. He tried to tell the world that these people are out of the ordinary and they're trying to persuade you, but I'm going to cross it. So if he really wanted to take the risk, and I don't think he should have, because you're giving him a platform he didn't deserve, like Fuentes. But Candace maybe is a different story, or Marjorie Taylor Greene. If you give them a platform and their views are out of the mainstream, you have an obligation as a journalist to cross-examine them. And especially when you bring on your former close friend and colleague in the conservative movement, Ted Cruz, and you just eviscerate him in an ambush. I saw that interview. Mm-hmm. Tucker is a very bright and sophisticated interviewer. So I just said to myself, why would you, if you're a conservative, and Ted streams in the conservative mainstream, why would you humiliate him on screen, but then you wouldn't use those same techniques when you could have done the public a service with Fuentes?
Because money, because of a spirit and that has gripped this country, that has overtaken this country of anti-Semitism, folks. And, I know the difference in disagreeing with Israel's government and disagreeing with government policy and Jew hatred. And this is way beyond the fact that people just don't like Bibi. I'm going to go ahead and say it again tonight, neighbor. If Bibi Netanyahu resigned tonight, stepped down, and let me just go further. If America cut off every single penny to Israel, cut off every single dollar, give in to this rabid mob, did everything Tucker's demanding, did everything Candace is demanding, did everything Margie Taylor Greene's demanding, did everything Matt Gaetz is demanding, and all these other scumbags, they would still hate Israel, and they'd still hate the Jews. They would still make these videos like this. Victor Davis Hanson is square on. Square on.
It's a great point. I mean, why would he absolutely dig into Ted Cruz for not knowing off the top of his head the population of Iran, which I admit he should have known.
Yeah.
But why would he absolutely humiliate Ted Cruz for saying that? And then when Nick Fuentes comes on and says,
let me stop the little guy right here. Why does it matter if Ted Cruz didn't know or didn't know the population of Iran? I mean, what do we expect these senators to do? A walking encyclopedia? For God's sake. Give me a break.
I love Joseph Stalin. He just says, okay, let's put a pin in that and come back to it very politely, right? Mm-hmm. So it's clear he's using one set of tactics on people that are pretty well within the American mainstream, and I think broadly mean well.
They don't mean well, sir. You're getting on my nerves. I want to hear Victor Davis. The interviewer, forget that. Alrighty, this is an interesting video here. This is Mario Cuomo's or Andrew Cuomo's aide today, letting the cat out of the bag that perhaps his whole reason for being in the race was to elect the commie. Roll the tape.
we did some soul searching. We did some honest reflection about what went wrong in the primary. And we made some real changes. We looked at some math and we decided that it was worth getting in. Not because we believed that we could prevail necessarily, but we believed that if we didn't get back in, you would end up with Zoran Mamdani having a landslide victory.
That's exactly what happened. They knew it. They knew it. They knew it. They knew it. While Andrew Cuomo, out of 8 million people, why did the Democrat Party put Andrew Cuomo, knowing they knew going in they were not going to win? Knowing good and well they weren't going to win. And I know there's a lot of thinking out there that, well, Silwall would have been in, Cuomo would have won. I'm not so sure about that. Not so sure about that. Silwall only got 8% of the vote. He was polling at 15 before the election last Tuesday night. He wound up only getting 8. Cuomo still loses by 4 points. And that's a landslide in politics. He'd have still lost by several 100,000 votes in New York last week. So, I don't know. I'll leave that one for you to chew on. Couple of other, I'm not sure what this video is. Let me see here. I should probably label these.
I ask every guest this. If you could offer one remedy to heal a sick culture, it could be physically, emotionally, or spiritually, what would that remedy be?
Go to church.
This is Ben Shapiro. And this is somebody that's Jewish telling the country, great question by the interviewer. Listen to what Ben says.
I ask every guest this. If you could offer one remedy to heal a sick culture, it could be physically, emotionally, or spiritually, what would that remedy be?
Go to church. Go to church. I said this is a Jew. Go to church.
Why do you say that as a Jew?
Because this is a Christian country. And I want Jews to go to synagogue, but there ain't that many of us. So if you're a Christian or if you grew up in a Christian household, even if you didn't, go to church. Church is good for you. I've said that my entire career. Charlie said it his entire career. It ain't going to stop now.
Well said, Ben. Well said. This is Kayleigh McEnany today on the Schumer fallout. By the way, folks, I'm going to say this about Chuck Schumer tonight. He's being made a scapegoat. I have no love lost for Chuck Schumer. Never have. I think he is a complete loser as a politician, as a human being. He has done more to hurt this country than most politicians. Him and Nancy should ride off into the sunset together. But this shutdown, again, it's paving the way for a socialist takeover. His biggest problem was he did not stand up to the inmates trying to take over his party from the left. If he would have stood up and put his foot down and did what was right, Chuck wouldn't be in the place he's in tonight. But it's voting for this party to become a socialist party fully, not a Democrat party any longer. Listen to Kayleigh.
A group of moderates came to Chuck Schumer 2 weeks into the shutdown, 2 weeks in, and said, we're ready to reopen the government. And he said, no, hold out. Wow. No, hold out. Mid-October, he said to his entire caucus that if anyone tried to reopen the government, he would stand against them. That's according to sources that told Axios. So shame on Chuck Schumer. I know he's gotten the rap as the moderate, being beholden to the far left. No, he caused the pain. He pushed the pain through, along with Hakeem Jeffries. And it's quite sad to see the radical left take.
It is quite sad to see the radical left take over, but I'm going to tell you, folks, the left is taking over the Republican Party, too. The left is taking over the Republican Party, too. It's a virus. It's a mental disorder.
You're saying it's becoming almost impossible to be an outspoken defender of Jews and defender of Israel and to be a proud Democrat. Why? Why is that
John
happening?
Fetterman.
Why has that been allowed to happen?
Yeah, I mean, I've witnessed it. You know, like for 2 years, I've had protesters showing up at my home, in my office, and in public. You know, we even with one of my kids. And social media was an accelerant for anti-Semitism. And TikTok, you know, like there was this study, 17-1, anti-Israel for every one pro-Israel one. And the algorithm has accelerated this, and that's why we've lost the younger vote. And I struggle with the younger voters as well too, because that's a strong correlation with being very pro-Israel, and that's now being increasingly incompatible with parts of the base.
Do you see that changing? Is there a way to change those minds?
Right now, no, I don't. And
he's right. He's right. By the way, that's Barry Weiss. She's the new head of CBS. It's about to clean house. She used to do a podcast. It's a good question she's asking John. Folks, I'm going to tell you something. Look, if I was to sit down with John Fetterman, me and him probably wouldn't agree on a whole lot, but I have to tell you, my respect for him is very, very deep tonight. It's very high. He is the only voice, and I'm talking about on both sides of the aisle. He's making more sense than most Republicans are. He's making more sense, definitely, than any Democrat is.
I have no regrets. You know, I could keel over tomorrow, but one of the things I'm proud of is standing with Israel after the Gaza war. They deserved a committed voice through that terrible war. That's the worst since the Holocaust. And now the cheapening of our language, genocide, and using those terms. I mean, that's just categorically not what occurred in the Gaza war, and having to that's part of the tragedy now. And the smear, and whether it's the blood libel, whatever that is called, it's like Israel never targeted civilians, and they never tried to starve or committed any kinds of genocide.
That's exactly right. They did not starve children. They did not start a genocide. They were attacked on October the 7th. Speaking of pastors, my dad would probably be turning over in his grave tonight. I'm certain of it. To see what has happened to the Methodist Church and to see what has happened to his people. But this is a Presbyterian minister, a Rebecca Peters, socialist. Abortion is a moral good. It's an act of love, she says. Abortion is an act of grace, and finally, abortion is a blessing. Now, if you combine that with what the other young lady said, that says, well, Christ came to give us dignity. So, in other words, if you put, and look, she's got a Planned Parenthood thing on her. So, what she is saying basically is, I guess it's a dignified thing to kill a baby, to murder a baby. It's good, it's an act of love, it's an act of grace, and it's a blessing. We call this apostasy. And Dennis, your statement about judging her, nobody's judging her, and you say, well, can't we judge what she says? I think we did. I think it's not a judgment, but we can define it as being evil, and we can define it as being wrong, and we're defining this as being wrong, and this as being evil, and this is coming from a demented, deranged mind of socialism. And this is coming from the realm of darkness, from which all of this stuff is coming from tonight, neighbor. I get asked this all the time. Chris, why do people act the way they act? Why do people think the way they act? It's easy. It's called the devil. It's called the devil. It's called the devil. All righty. I got more, but I got to quit. All right. You got 10 minutes. Say what you got to say. Questions? Elaine says the left has taken over all parties now. This is what communism does. Well said, friend. Destroy families, destroy education. Finally, your government. And Elaine, I'll tell you something else that communism does. Your statement is square on. It replaces God with man. It replaces God with government. In other words, it tells the world that you don't get your life and your sustenance and your being from God. You know, Paul wrote in Acts, he said, in him we breathe and live. Communists and socialism removes God, because if you think about the world, if you look at communist regimes, look at North Korea, look at Russia, look at China, they are all atheists and agnostic. Now, Russia, to their credit, and it's not credit, I shouldn't say that word credit, but for whatever reason right now, because I've got pastor friends there, we actually aired a broadcast for about a month over there. We just couldn't afford it. It was so expensive. we tried our best to get the money raised, and we just couldn't. But it was an interesting time. People thought one night we played a video from us preaching over there. They had translated, and we may do that again sometimes. People thought the Russians had taken over the McFiles and somebody had hacked into our account. It was so funny. But going back to Russia, they do have a little bit more sympathy for Christian ministries in Russia right now. There's more freedom. The guy told me, the pastor friend of mine from the network that we were on, he said, Chris, he said, we've got more freedom here in Russia, and this was at the time of Biden, than you all do in America. He said, we can actually preach pretty freely and say what we need to say. He said, we get our persecution granted. He said, the persecution, they don't come from the government. Guess where the persecution came from? It came from the state church of Russia. It came from within the ranks of the state church. That's where the persecution came from. So, Elaine, your point is square on, and that's exactly. And you know what's so funny about that, Elaine? The young lady, and folks, again, the word name calling and all that is not benefiting anybody. It's not going to change the fact that what she is saying, and let me just say this: what she's saying, we may consider it a little messed up. It's believed by a lot. It's not just being believed by her. That's sort of the point I'm trying to get across to us tonight, and I don't know if I'm doing a good enough job of it, is that we look at this, and we adults and we on the right and we believers, we look at this, we shake our head at this, we say, well, that's just crazy. That's just crazy talk, and that's just unreal. But folks, listen to me. As unreal and crazy as it is how people believe. It's what people want. It's what people embrace. They're embracing it. It's not what they want to embrace. It's what they're embracing. It's what our young people are embracing. But Glenn, going back to your point, her whole diatribe was about dignity, wasn't it? If you've ever lived, thank God we've never lived in one. I don't want to live in one. If you've ever lived in a communist regime or a socialist government, all Germany did was remove the dignity of people. The German government basically removed the dignity of the Jews. They stripped the Jews of all dignity. They stripped the Jews. They made them. They dehumanized them. They considered them animals. They convinced the German people that that's all they were. They convinced them they were vermin. They convinced them they were dangerous. They convinced them that they were evil. They were controllers of the World Bank system. It sounds like American podcasters, don't it? It sounds like pretty much what you hear every day out there on X, and everything you hear on the YouTube. Sounds like telegram rumors. People that claim they're godly and put all this stuff out there. If there's ever a regime that removes dignity, it's Islam. Ask a woman who is under the jackbooted heel of Islam what kind of dignity she has. See what kind of dignity she has under Islam. She has none. She has none. None whatsoever. By the way, speaking of that, what do you think this is a picture of? That's Iran right there. That's what they do. They got a woman tied up to a chain right there. Does that look dignity to you? Does that look like dignity to any of you out there tonight? This is what Islam does. This is what socialism pushes. It's not Christian. Good point, my friend. Good point. Chris Davis says this socialism, communism, and anti-Semitism is bringing in the Antichrist. Chris, it is setting the stage. It's setting the stage. We have no timetable on when all these things will take place, but it is definitely setting a spirit. The spirit of it behind it is the devil. The spirit of it is the Antichrist spirit. It definitely is. It definitely is. Definitely is. Any other questions? Any statements tonight? We got about 5-10 minutes. We're going to let you get out of here. Stephen says, how can we prevent the American churches from continuing to be taken over by this garbage? Stephen, how can we prevent the churches from being taken over by this? Well, number one, we got to pray. We can't. John Fetterman said it. The lady asked him. She says, what can we do to stop the young people? What can we do to change the mind of these young people? You can't. Stephen, me and you can't do that. We can't do nothing to get it out of the churches. It takes prisms out there saying we need to repent. And look, it's going to take repentance on the pastor's part, but that's a choice. We can't do nothing. The only thing we can do is flee from these churches and flee from this stuff and get away from it. But as far as changing and keeping it out of our churches, there's nothing we can do. Unless we have a Holy Ghost revival and some preachers have the devil shook out of them. But that's got to come from heaven. That's got to come from heaven. Look, I'm going to be frank with you, folks. I'm just showing you this stuff to let you know it's out there. But ultimately, I can't force people to believe this. Trust me. There's a lot of people out there that don't believe what I'm saying tonight. They don't like what I'm saying because they let me know about it every day. And they let me know about it every week and every month. I can't change your mind. I'm not trying to. Charlie Kirk tried his best to get minds changed, and he did his best. And sometimes it worked, sometimes it didn't. People have got to believe what they want to believe. They will believe what they want to believe ultimately. And that's what we've got to come to realize. And these churches, folks, these pastors that are preaching this stuff, they are going to preach it. We got 10 minutes. I'm going to give you, I'm at an hour 19. You got 10 more minutes. Stephen, we can't do a thing about this. Pray. But I will say this. If you're in a church, I read something today. If you're in a church that the pastor is preaching replacement theology, or he's preaching social justice, or he is basically denying, he's promoting abortion, promoting perversion, or she is, because we've got so many women taking over the churches because there ain't no leadership of men. It's basically Isaiah 57. It's basically Isaiah 3. We've just studied that in our morning Bible studies, and we talked about it. Sunday was a week ago. We read the whole 3rd chapter of Isaiah. The children will rule over them, and my Bible students will probably, I haven't even finished with Isaiah 3. We've been on some deeper stuff this week, but if you read Isaiah 3 on out, it talks about that the women are leading. There's so much lack of male leadership, the women take over, and it's not a good thing in the sight of God, because it's never been the women's job to be leaders. I don't say that sexist. The man is the head. God created Adam first. He took Eve from Adam. Adam is to cherish that wife. Man is supposed to cherish his mate. He's supposed to respect. But that man is the leader. And the woman's job is to submit unto that husband as unto God. That's the godly way. I know that just cringes and makes people break their teeth, screaming and throwing stuff at the screen with this women live movement. Isaiah 3 says, a nation that's gone away from God and is an apostate nation, there's no men leadership. There's no male leadership. Children will rule over them, and women will be their counselors. And that's exactly what we've had happen in this nation. But you can't change that. I can't change it. People want it. Somebody was complaining to me years ago about a ministry, and they were just railing and railing and railing and railing. And I just told the person, and they didn't like it when I told him. I said, the people that the ministry has under them, they got thousands of people that they talk to every Sunday. It must not be too bad, because thousands go to listen to them. And I'm not saying it was bad or good, but the fact of the matter is you got 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, 5,000 people listening to this garbage. You can't stop them. You can't stop them. Chris amen himself. I'll amen myself tonight. Good to see Teresa Cerner in the house. Carol Smith says, stopping socialism, Islam, and anti-Semitism is like trying to stop a runaway train. What can we do beside prayer and voting? Carol, that's about it, my friend. It's good to see you tonight. It's time. It's good to see you. And you know, Carol, that's a three-pronged attack on our nation right now. The anti-Semitism, the socialism, and communism, of course. I think you mentioned that. Yeah, socialism, Islam, and anti-Semitism. Socialism, communism, you can sort of put in the same category. Islam, we got an Islamic takeover going on right now. We definitely got anti-Semitism going on right now. And we definitely got a socialist takeover right now. They're all three related. I've never seen anything like this, folks. I got some reasons why I believe some of this is happening, and I don't want to get into them tonight. We need to pray for our president. We really do. We need to pray for his advisors. We need to pray for his cabinet. Pray and vote. Pray and vote. Pray and vote. And if you have children in your home, and you have kids still in your territory to teach your kids. Tell them. Tell them. Do not take for granted that they believe the way mom and dad does. I've learned this the hard way. Your kids don't believe the same way mom and dad does. They don't. Because they were not raised, if mom and dad's been silent, taking it for granted that they do, they're going to get out in that world and they're going to develop their own worldview. And even if you do teach them, they're still going to be influenced by that worldview. Some of them will stay grounded, but there's many of them that won't. You can't, once they become an adult, they're out of your care. Even though I do have a few dad to son talks with mine as adults, it may not go nowhere, but I still try. I still try. Because I love them. I don't hate them. I love them. But ultimately, they got to make that call for themselves. I cannot force them to believe what their dad believes. Just can't do it. Teresa, it is good to have you. Good to see you tonight, dear. Hope to see you soon, my friend. Praying for you and your family. Really are. Corey Aguilar says we've got soy latte drinking. What do you got here? I like this. We've got we've got soy latte drinking, avocado eating, man bun wearing men now. Very well said, my friend. That is so true. That is so true. That is so true. Jenny Castellanova. During the Holocaust, George Soros went around confiscating property of the Jews. He said in an interview would do it again if he had to. Jenny, you're right. It's what people don't realize. George Soros was one of those, and that was what was so horrible about the Holocaust. There were many Jews that sold out their own people to Hitler. And folks, I'm going to tell you something else that sold out the Jews to Hitler. Was the church. Mia Shabdas wrote a book called The Watch of the Lord. And in that book, in the first, second, or third chapter of his book, he talks about Nazi Germany. He talks about how the Assembly of God churches during that time, it was right after the Hebrides revival. And the Hebrides revival was a revival marked by speaking in tongues, the baptism of the Holy Spirit, healings, prophetic words, people getting saved. It was a massive move of God that hit the European continent. The German church basically issued, I think it was the Reformed Church of Germany or something. It was one of the German churches, the Anglicans, or they got a collective group of churches together, including the Pentecostals of the day. This is how the devil takes over churches. They issued a joint statement that said basically, we don't want that here. We don't want the Holy Spirit here. We don't want that. And what it did, it created a vacuum in the spirit realm. And it was shortly after the Hebrides revival that Germany put Hitler in power. And while he was in power, he demasculated the churches. And during the Holocaust, not only did he have Jews that would betray their own, but he had churches that were willing to do his bidding. There were stories that these churches would send word out to the Jews in hiding and say, come to our church, and if you will come to our sanctuary, we will grant you sanctuary. And when the Jews would show up, the Nazis were waiting for them, and they would take them away to gas camps. It's on the church. Now, the Bible tells us in the last days, perilous times will come. Men will be lovers of themselves, haughty, traitors. The word traitors comes up a lot. Traitors. traitors. They're going to be traitors to the faith, traitors to nations, traitors to godliness. Children will not be obedient to parents. They'll be disobedient to parents. Folks, we're witnessing Bible times coming off the pages of the Bible. We're living in those days right now. We're living in those days. And I'm out of time tonight. I've enjoyed being with you. I'm sorry we didn't have a guest. You had to listen to me for an hour and a half, and for that I apologize. That you had to endure me for an hour. John, you say schools, buddy. I don't lay it all on the schools. I don't lay it all on the schools, John. And I tell you what, John, I love you. Good to see you tonight. See you in the morning on the Bible study. But I will tell you this, John, the schools only are an echo chamber of what they've heard the church push behind pulpits. And let me say this about the schools. If the parents were teaching their kids right at home, it wouldn't matter what that school system said. Because I tell you what would happen. That kid would go to school and he'd hear some kind of garbage coming from the school. That kid would go home and tell mom and daddy. And in the old days, mom and daddy would march themselves down to the school board and somebody's backside would be in a briefcase. They'd be fired for teaching their kids some kind of ungodly stuff. We don't do that no more. And the ones that do it, they get the cops called on them and names called. I'm not going to disagree with your sentiment. Schools are in a mess. But they're not the reason why the nation's in the abyss and the world's in the abyss it's in. It goes back down to God's people. I hate to say it tonight. It goes back down to the church and the lack of moral clarity among God's own. Among God's own. What can you do when the church has gone so far out into the field that it's gone to? Not much you can do. And Stephen, when I answered your question, my friend, I wasn't answering it in a negative way. I understand what you're saying. But ultimately, if the church, if we don't get clarity from God's people, or supposedly who claim they're God's people, who are we going to get it from? We sure ain't going to get it from Hollywood. And we sure ain't going to get it from Wall Street. We ain't going to get it from the evening news and the media. And I hate to tell you, folks, you ain't getting it from the government. And you're not going to get it from the education system. That's why God put the church on this earth. That's why God's called this body of people out. We're supposed to be a light. We're supposed to be salt. But we're none of that, sadly. We're none of that, sadly. Listen, I hope you've enjoyed the show tonight. We will see you next time Thursday night. It'll be late. And hopefully some of our folks will be better. We'll get you a guest on here so you won't have to listen to this old redneck southerner with a hat on, run his mouth for an hour and a half. But it's a pretty good job. I didn't warp you too bad, did I? Put some fire in that house if you got something out of this tonight. Happy Veterans Day to all our veterans, including my father, my late father, Wayne McDonald, retired U.S. Navy, and my dear brother, Todd. I actually told Todd the other day, I meant this too. I said, bro, I don't tell you enough, but I'm really thankful for your service to our country as a vet. Because Todd, I know what he went through there at the end. When he tried to get out of the Air Force. He was in the Air Force for almost 20 years, retired lieutenant colonel. They sent him to Iraq out of spite. They got mad because he was retiring early because of Obama, and they sent him. The Obama people said, well, I'll tell you what we're going to do. We're going to look at your record here, and they found out he didn't serve overseas any. And for him to be able to get out, he had to serve a term overseas. Well, they could have chosen any place in the world. Todd thought, well, they'll probably send me to some theater in Europe somewhere, maybe Japan or somewhere, one of those naval Air Force bases, and got his marching orders to Kirkuk, Iraq. Sent him to Iraq for a year, and it was during that time that we were over there fighting, and the Kurds, and Todd, he still don't talk about it, but I think he had to draw his weapon a few times to survive. Bad times during those days. But listen, I want to say this to you as we go out of here tonight. And my dear buddy James Akers, I'm praying for him and praying for Magdalene tonight. God's not wringing his hands out about any of this. We serve a mighty God. Our faith needs to be on him. Nothing that happens in this world system should shake our faith. Nothing. We should be the same tonight that we are tomorrow. It don't matter who's in power and who's not. We need to pray for good government. We need to vote for good government. We need to flee churches that are apostate. We do not need to be hanging around apostate doctrine. We need to be grounded in the truth. But our faith and where we stand spiritually, where we stand biblically, should not change based on the weather and what happens in Washington, D.C. and don't. I know it's hard sometimes not to be shaken. I get mad, folks. I get spit mad. It's a good thing I got a TV that's not busted because I want to throw a shoe and other things at it many times, listening to these kooks talk. And the Lord's got to calm me down. And it's just my nature. But, you know, as quick as I get upset about it, the Lord just calmly speaks to my heart. And he says, why are you getting upset? I told you these things would come to pass in these last days, and they're coming to pass. Look up. Your redemption's drawing nigh. And I'm going to leave you with that tonight on this Tuesday night. We hope you've enjoyed the show. God bless you. God bless your families. And God bless this great United States of America, whom I love dearly. And our prayers for the peace of Jerusalem tonight as well. Have a good night, everybody. Thank you for being with me. McFiles Forum at gmail.com. If you've got some more further comments, I'll be more than happy to take them. And have a good night. See you tomorrow.